I want to thank everyone for coming in. If any, and I see a few new people, if you can, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Jay will put that in the chat room. I want to thank Epson, Photo Shelter, Pro Photo Daily, American Photography, and B&H for always being there for us. I appreciate that. And tonight we have two terrific presenters. Liam Kennedy, who's going to be talking about his new book, Shakedown. And anyone gets extra credit if they know what Shakedown is. I didn't know that. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. And we're going to start off with Lisa Wiseman, who's a beautiful portrait photographer. So out of San Francisco, a Warrior fan, and sometimes San Francisco Giant fan, I just learned. So Lisa, it's all yours. Take it over.
Thanks,
Share
Frank.
your screen, and off we go.
Yes, I'm going to share
And
my.
and Lisa, give us a little idea, how you got started, and give us a little background as we start.
Yes, let me share my screen and then I will. You guys got it?
Yep.
Okay. Um, Goodness, I have been doing every possible form of art and dance and creativity since I was tiny. Um,
Yeah.
I did not come to photography until a little bit later, although relatively speaking, reasonably early. But very much as an accident. And it took me many, many years to figure out that was the medium I had been looking for, that it was like breathing. But I was like pretty committed to, doing lots of other types of stuff. I was a dancer for a long time. I wrote music. I traveled as a composer. So I had this whole other creative life very much separate from photography. Um, and and then post college, I thought I was supposed to get a job. So for a hot second there, I was going to be a stockbroker, which in hindsight is very funny. Um, but uh, but here I am, 20, it's probably something 20 years later. Haven't This has been my life, my only profession as an adult. But this is my great love in the world is making portraits.
So tell me about this particular shot and the other, one of the first shots that you started with the person underwater.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes. This is I sort of joke with my family. This is what happens if you go on vacation with me. I will inevitably convince you to get naked and get in a body of water. I mean,
Okay.
joking, not joking, it really happens pretty much every time I travel. And this is my aunt, who on a whim said yes to sunset. It was cold in the mountains, sunset. I'm like, let's just, can we just go like right now? Let's just, and she said yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're never going to say, yes, right now. My car is right there. Like, we're going to go to the lake right now. I'm not going to let you change your mind. So we went, and all these things evolve organically. I did not have some plan in mind. I am very much interested in letting whimsical things happen, and letting there's planning. I mean, this is a personal image, but when there's a project involved, of course there's structure and there's shot lists and clients and so on. But no matter what I'm doing, I always let there be room for magic. And sometimes things like this happen. I asked her to get in the water, but I wasn't, I wish I could say, oh, I crafted this image, but these things
But you
happen.
did, Lisa, right? I
I
mean, you
see
did.
them. I make them into permanent images, but I didn't say like, oh, float, I didn't say float backward toward me. But I set up a situation in which I could see beautiful things come by. And I knew that I wanted to make something with her that was quiet and beautiful, like in keeping with who she is as a person. So that's sort of the backstory here of her. But portraits for me are very much they're like outcomes of what I want as a human. I want connection as a person. I want a closer, tighter relationship with people, with strangers, with people in my life, with friends, family, children. Um, this is very much like a layered way for me to make intimacy and for me to make connection. And these are all sort of love letters to the people I'm photographing, even when I don't know them.
Yeah,
Uh,
and at least like so what is it that you do that you feel makes those folks comfortable to give you that emotion?
oh goodness, I am like immune to embarrassment, which is probably the most fun part of my life. My children might not agree with that, but I am not. I'm just like exactly who I am, and I'm not embarrassed. Really, I mean, probably not never, but a lot less than your average person. So I'm always willing to like do the thing I'm asking them to do, be silly, be
And this
myself,
one, explain
talk
this
about
shot
myself.
too.
Say again.
No, and explain this shot too, because that's a beautiful shot too.
Oh, thank you.
And just one question: are all these assignments or all these personal works? Give us a sense of that as well.
This is mixed in. The grouping I put together here is more personal than assignment, but it's a mix. Um, like this one was assignment. The one I was just on was personal. Um, So there's not this one, there's not a great story here. I was photographing her and I walked outside and I saw her in the window. And then I asked her to look out the window as opposed to looking into the house. Um, and I was on my tiptoes and it was like this perfect LA night. It was hot, it was muggy, it was like just about to be no light left. And I'm like standing on my tiptoes, like trying to see into the window of this tiny little bungalow, and we're like by the airport, and there are planes going by overhead. But she, for me, just encapsulated this like unbelievable stillness,
Mhm.
which is funny to for you to pick out two images with stillness. Not all my images have that, um, but this is one of my favorites also. So, um, and you asked another question a moment ago. You said,
Yeah,
how do I get this?
yeah, and the problem and the shot before with I guess the female soldier breastfeeding.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm again, personal project or
No, this is client work.
okay.
The client, we talked about whether or not they would be comfortable with breastfeeding. Um, the idea was, I can't remember all the details of that particular conversation, but they were on board with trying it, and then they weren't sure which way they were going to go, so we shot it both ways. But this is not faked. This is her and her child.
Yeah.
So,
And do you prefer the studio or location?
oh, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I make studios where I need them, and I don't choose to work out of a studio. I don't own a studio. I like to work on location, but I'm build studios in locations or on rooftops or in
Yeah.
forests like all the time. So I don't have a preference. A human is a human. I don't need them to be in a specific environment for me to be interested in making the portrait. Um, so to your earlier question, how? Mostly by being exactly who I am, and people sort of come out of themselves toward me. There's a lot of joy in giving somebody the space to be themselves a
Mm.
second when they might not otherwise get to spend part of their day being seen, feeling seen. I feel like it's a transactional gift
Mm.
for me, the way I see it. Like we're making something together. I'm not making this thing and taking away from them. It's an integration, and there's definitely a sense of give and take and collaboration. And part of what they're giving me is their willingness to be there, like really there, not in a artifice or stage kind of way.
Right. And do you do, I mean, what type of prep do you do whether it's an assignment job or a personal project? is there something that you do to sort of ingratiate yourself with the subject beforehand?
You mean on like in the moment when I'm standing there with
Yeah,
them or in advance?
in the moment, or if you know you're shooting this, this dancer, do you do
Of
some
course.
research on where she danced before, and
Oh, of
any of that?
course. Of course. If I know who I'm shooting, and I get to learn something about them in advance, of course I'm going to learn who they are because I mean, it doesn't matter for me if it's personal or assignment.
Mm,
I'm interested in who they are, whether I'm making a portrait, as in it's for fill in the blank for the Wall Street
mm,
Journal or whatever, and it's meant to be a portrait and article written about them. In that case, like this is Kay Ryan, I shot it for Newsweek. In that case, of course, I want to know who they are because they're also being written about as who they are. But if it's a talent that's been hired for a project or a person who I've like my grocer for many years, I wanted to photograph this man who was my grocer, who's a young man. And then I happened to see him outside the grocery store one day, and I said, "Oh my gosh, can I please photograph you?" I mean, I'm like an exclamation point as a human being, so like me as a person. And he was totally into it right away. And he said, really good timing. I actually just this was my last day. I quit. Um, I feel like there's a lot of kismet in the world, but
mm,
I didn't necessarily know a lot about him, right? But so sometimes I go in and I will want to know about somebody or a hired talent, and maybe I get to know some about them, maybe I don't. But I certainly try to learn about them, not because it's good for my job per se, but like, this gentleman, he won a Nobel Prize, and I knew that he was going to be he had very, very limited time. So I want to be able to engage with somebody. So of course I'm gonna like, when there's an assignment and I go in and I know I have less than 10 minutes with somebody, of course I'm gonna try to know about them ahead of time, but it's not just for the sake of wanting to know something about them from an I'm taking from them kind of perspective. Like, I need something from you in order to make this image. That's not how I feel about it. Um,
yeah,
this is
it's
I have to tell you, this is one of my all-time favorite images.
okay.
This woman, this was part of my project that I did for my 30th birthday. I raised $30,000 for charity in 30 days. I shouldn't say we raised almost $30,000, but the goal was to raise $30,000 for charity in 30 days. And I made 30 portraits in conjunction with this project.
Mm,
And the money went to Glide in San Francisco. They happen to be a church, but for me, they are an organization that focuses on connection and ending cycles of disrepair and poverty and separation through connection and love. And they do a lot of work for those experiencing homelessness and disease and trauma. And so the portraits were a combination of people who ran the foundation, people who were clients, and people who were employees. And this woman she was a client and then she became an employee. And I had, 2 or 3 minutes with each of these people. And I said something like, "Oh, tell me about your kids." Um, and she starts telling me a story. And then she says, "And my son was killed in a drive-by shooting." And
mm,
she almost starts crying and she doesn't quite. And then this moment was like 10 seconds later. And so going through this whole cycle of emotion with somebody from here to here and all the way back around again is this really, I feel very lucky to be able to be with somebody while that's happening and to facilitate that kind of vacillation through
mm.
an emotional landscape, for lack of a better way to say it. Um,
Yeah. So, I mean, capturing moments like that really is a testament to how people perceive you, right? In that you're listening, you're caring, you're giving of yourself, and then it makes, the subject, just comfortable, right? And if you're comfortable, you can be yourself. But I need to ask you, show me that shot back of a few of the tennis courts in the middle of nowhere.
this one. This?
Yeah, where
Yeah.
are we? What are we doing?
This is in Ein Gedi, near the Dead Sea.
Oh, okay.
It's in Israel, on the border of Israel and I believe Israel and Lebanon. It's
Is
like,
it part of a
it's like a
kibbutz?
stone's throw from the border. It's part of a kibbutz. Ein
Yeah.
Gedi is a kibbutz. My family is from the Middle East, so which is a longer, more complicated story. than we will address here.
Okay. Yeah, I worked on kibbutz a long time ago myself.
Um,
Yeah,
I,
okay.
yeah.
And
Um,
there's another nice shot of a little kid a few shots back with a blue background right
oh
there.
God, this kid, whew, this kid. I was photographing a project of people in my intimate community, like my local community on Nextdoor on Facebook, parents, colleagues, etc. So I put out basically a open call for anybody who wanted to connect, and it was sort of right at the reopening of COVID when people were starting to sort of talk to each other. I mean, at least by us, the lockdown was early and aggressive. And it felt like it lasted longer than it did in other places. So I felt like there was just a need for more literal coming together, like physically come to the same space. Like we're gonna see each other in person. And though that kid and his brother were so full of energy, I mean, just bouncing off the walls, really funny kids. And that face, I mean, it's like
My God, too cute.
I was like, oh, that just sums you up right there. It's
Right.
just you in a nutshell. Yep.
So it feels like, Lisa, you do a lot within your local community. You're giving and you're listening and you're on the pulse of what's happening there. So I mean, you do these beautiful portraits, but you're giving back to the community, and it feels, as you speak, so enriching to do that.
Oh, well, thank you. I definitely value and prioritize giving. I don't even think of it as giving back. It's just like part of what you do,
You are, yeah,
especially in an artistic endeavor. We don't do this alone. The the competition the competition, generally speaking, in the world is not nourishing, especially in our industry. I am a big
yeah,
believer that all boats rise. We lift each other up. We are not racing to the bottom. So, aside from the fact that I actually just enjoy it, it feels like the right thing to do in terms of who we are as people to
yeah.
to choose connection with each other instead of separation. So I was on the APA board of our local chapter for quite a while. I teach, I lecture, I do a lot of things that were given to me, not because they were given to me, but because, man, it feels so good to be part of a community and to
Yeah.
take care of each other. I know that probably sounds, trite, but it's not.
No, but yeah, it's simple and it's true, right? I mean, mm. So how do you come up with an idea on this shot?
Oh, well, I mean, that's just, the way the world looks to me is maybe not the way it looks to everybody else. Like, that's the kind of thing I see. I've always been detail oriented. And
Mm,
like to me, I look at this image and I see two fans. I also see her in the window, like, but
mm,
the details are often what interest me perhaps more than the thing itself. At
mm,
least it certainly at least as much as the thing itself. Um, so there's not there's I don't have some story behind that. That's the kind of thing that I pay attention to in the world.
right.
Um, you know, this was a fun one. This was Fabien Cousteau for a big yachting magazine, and the request was to photograph him in a pool, and no pool in New York, in the greater New York area, would let us photograph. My agent and my agent's assistant and the editor and the editor's assistant and me, we were all looking for pools for, I don't know, 2 weeks probably. I feel like we called every
Oh,
single pool in the
and
greater
why?
New York
They say
ever.
why?
Well, I mean, Jacques Cousteau and Fabien Cousteau is quite a famous oceanographer himself.
Yeah.
So this was the request. This was the creative request.
No, no, but why couldn't you get into a pool
Yeah, beats me. It doesn't feel like a complicated ask, and we were
at
there for
all?
so little time. So we shot this at, oh God, the crack of dawn. I flew in overnight, and I think we shot it at 5:30 in the morning or something. We shot it at the Standard High Line, and in their pool, which is actually a hot tub inside of a bar. And they apparently drain this pool every day. But we had arrived prior to the draining happening, which happens at like 6 a.m. or something. Um, and so we were like, couldn't we just wait like like 1 hour for you to drain the pool? Like really, we'd love to just be in it when it's clean. Um, and we did not, and we got in, and it was a bonding experience. Fabian was so kind and so just so generous with his willingness to participate. And then I ended up the giant duvetine was not meant to be in the water, and a tiny little corner of it got in the water, and the whole thing, the whole edge of it got moist, and so I'm like sitting in my hotel room with like the world's smallest New York hair dryer, like New York hotel hair dryer, like drying a duvetine for like 3 hours afterward, before we brought the duvetine back to the rental house. Um, so we make all kinds of things happen. And total silence. I'm like, ooh, did I just shut it down with that story?
No, 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 no. I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking because I've always repped commercial photographers as well, and you just get it done. Like you
Yeah.
find a way, right?
Yeah. Somebody asked me earlier this week, what do you do when somebody doesn't open up to you? And I said, well, that doesn't really happen. Like it does, I guess. I have tricks. I have tools, but really I mean, I can think of a handful of people who have really been very reticent to let me photograph them, but it's a
Right.
small number because you get it
That's a
done.
great shot. That
This
that
one,
that boardwalk shot. Yeah, I mean, there's always a tough subject every once in a while. The shot before this one,
oh
I
God,
love that shot.
mine too. Thank you. I love this. I was debating including this, but this is one of my all-time favorites. This is from my honeymoon, actually.
Ah,
And these
great.
children were
Where
running
is
up and
that?
down. This is in French Polynesia.
No,
There's basically no land, it's all water.
really.
This is like one of the only little chunks of land because everything is by boat. No cars, really.
Right.
Um, I love these children were
Yeah, the
and
lighting.
and every some number of years they have this very large festival, and this was like 2 days before the festival started. So there was
Mm.
quite a bit of activity that would not otherwise have been there.
At least what you're showing is all part of your portfolio that you have on your website.
No, a lot of this is not on my website. A lot of this is
Okay.
personal that I put together just for today.
Okay.
Some of it, some of it is there, but much of it is not.
Now, I'm asking from a standpoint of, clients coming and seeing this work can get a real sense of you through this work.
Oh, well, I thank you. I hope so. I mean, I feel like the work I've curated on my website is a good representation of me. But when I meet a client, I also bring a handmade scrapbook that is my portfolio. I choose not to show what others would consider sort of a more standard portfolio.
Mm.
And then when I'm meeting people online, I have a photographed copy, so it's not a digital copy. It's like literally photographs of the book that you flip through as if you're flipping through the physical book. So I try to give people as intimate and tender a view of my work as they can because that's who I am as a person. Yeah, I mean, I get it done, and I think that we have a pretty darn good time getting it done. That sounded weird, but I think you know what
No,
I mean. Like this
it's
is
important
we
to have a good time.
we could all be doing something much less enjoyable than being photographers. I feel very, very lucky to get to do this for my job and for my passion. But yeah, it's a good time when we put on a big production, and sometimes
Mm.
it's huge productions, 50 people, 80 people, and sometimes it's just me and the subject, or me and my friend, or you know, me and somebody I know, or
Yeah,
colleague or whatever. So um, we try to we try to make it enjoyable and get it done, like you said.
yeah. Who's she? Cute
She's a,
face.
she's a girl who replied in New York on one day's notice. I was shooting this personal project. I was basically training myself to shoot faster than I had been shooting. So I gave myself an assignment to photograph people quickly and in the same environment. And I took all sorts. There's one gentleman who was, I, I mean, it was like out of a movie. My assistant and I were having coffee, and he goes, "Look behind you." And I look behind me, and I'm like at belly button level, and I'm not short. This man was close to 7 feet tall, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, have you seen? I literally said the words, "Have you seen you?" I was so embarrassed, but he was so unusual and spectacular. And so sometimes it was for that project. Sometimes it was me actually asking people and that woman, I went to New York and I put out a casting call and I ended up photographing her and some people in my community. And she just showed up and I was like, wow, you're fantastic. Thank you for responding. But it was, on 7 or 8 hours notice. I think my friend had offered me his studio for like an hour. And so, I put it out
Yeah.
one
So
evening and shot it the next morning.
yeah. So what was the impetus for I have to shoot quick? Like,
Oh, I had been getting requests to shoot personalities,
mm,
well-known people. Like, this is Amy
yeah.
Tan, who I actually photographed again recently. This was quite a while ago. And she's extremely generous with her time, but not everyone is. Some people have 3 minutes or 4 minutes. So I was basically just practicing for the kinds of jobs that I was getting and the kinds of jobs I wanted more of. And also, I feel like most people don't have a lot of patience anyway. And I don't mean that they're impatient, I just mean that they don't necessarily have the stamina. Patience is not really the right word. They don't have the stamina to be photographed for long. So even when it's a hired talent, it's not uncommon for the selected shot to be the first or second shot that we capture. So I try to make it quick because also that's good for the talent or the subject.
Is that sort of a social comment as well, that people don't have time or patience or the
Oh,
way,
interesting.
right? I
And
mean, because
I
the way
would,
you say that, the way you said that, it just rang a bell in my head,
ah,
about us on the phones and, no one has time and blah, blah. I
well,
think when I called you, I said, I'm going to do something really old fashioned. I'm going to get on the phone, you
yeah,
know.
and I picked up the phone. Yeah.
Right. No, but I'm saying, do you think that that's sort of, what you were saying about no time and patience and on and on and on, is a sign of the times?
Interesting. I think that's certainly a good connection. That's not the connection I would have made, but I totally agree with you. I think there is a bifurcated sense of attention,
Mm,
frazzled. But I meant more like people, I think a lot of people are uncomfortable being seen. We've been
okay.
sort of as a culture moving toward, less connection and more digital interaction, which has its benefits. I'm certainly not opposed per se, but the idea that you sit and make eye contact with somebody over a meal or over a book or you talk to somebody in a bookstore, those kinds of things involve intimacy and being willing to let somebody see you, and I think having a camera in front of somebody makes that more pronounced. So I think people are able to open up to me, and then I try to respect the fact that that might be feeling hard for them and try to make it an enjoyable experience, not a prolonged experience.
Mm, okay.
Although sometimes people just go with it. Like Fabian, he was willing. We were chatting and it went on and it was like some people are like that, are just
Yeah.
super get into it and there's a vibe and a groove and and then this kind of thing happens and there's just like there's so much joy and possibility everywhere. Um, I feel like my job is not so much a photographer, it's like a joy seeker, an excitement bringer. Like, we're all so lucky to get to be part of this interaction between.
That's a great chat. I love that.
Oh, thanks. So there's a lot of joy in the world and a lot of good stuff. So I feel like I get to do this thing where I get to let people see it and bring it out. So
Mm, great.
mm. There's actually I'm gonna just skip ahead here for a second because this kid, like this kid and I did not speak the same language. So I actually have no idea what happened in our interaction because he I'm trying to remember, keeping my kids straight. There were a lot of kids on this trip. This child spoke Arabic and I don't speak Arabic. And we didn't have to have words. Like it was just, there's stuff there, even if there's no words, you don't need to be, I mean, I'm sitting here talking a lot, but like really a lot of my life is not a lot of talking with people. It's just
Mm.
letting them be. And I happen to be holding a camera in front of them. So,
And how old was this kid?
well, I'm guessing because I think he was probably about 9.
All right.
That's my guess. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of there, there's to me the difference between sort of brighter energy and quieter energy, to me that doesn't feel so different. They all sort of feel like uh, not even like a continuum, almost like they're just kind of pieces of each other. And there's seriousness and joy can very much be the same thing, and quietness and you can have
Fulfillment, right?
what?
It's like a fulfillment, right, of getting that from those from your subjects. So how many years are we looking at here, Lisa? Of this body that you're showing,
Well,
approx.
this is not a single body of work, so this is just a compilation over my
Right.
career. I
Of,
think probably the earliest image is maybe roughly 10 years ago,
okay.
maybe 15 years ago. Probably the bulk of it is in the last 3 to 5 years
Wow.
ish.
Okay.
I didn't like trying to remember how I put it together. I didn't really consider that. I just pulled my
Yeah.
favorites.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
Beautiful. And do you ever think in the context of I'm going to shoot this subject, like you had, quick shots, coming up with moments. Do you ever go out and say, I want to do a body of work in this area?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Um, I don't happen to be showing that, but
Right.
yes, absolutely. I have a social theory background, so I'm very interested in how we as individuals and we as a culture make and perpetuate our identity and how we sort of form and reform that in the media that we use. So there's definitely a lot of pieces of that I'm interested in that I sort of take on in different projects that I explore. Um, at the moment, I am working on a couple of things. I'm taking confessions from people
Confessions.
in case anybody here wants to participate. Um, it's kind of it's kind of the inverse of the apology line from the 80s in New York. Um, the the idea of the apology line was this anonymity that you could say something into a voice recorder and there was
Right.
complete anonymity. I feel like in the way we have structured our world, there's a lot of separation. So inverse is really about connection in terms of visceral choice to say something that might feel very uncomfortable or challenging and to say it to me in person. um, I won't give away who it was. I have not posted the project yet. But the last one I photographed, he said, please don't tell, I know both of the partners. And he said, please don't tell my partner. I think I'm a better parent. And I feel like that's the kind of thing that you don't want to say out loud. And somebody has confessed a really profound illness. Another person confessed an illegal thing that they did as in their 20s. Another person made a confession that I really, it was complicated and like made me blush, which is hard to do. So, I've heard really very pedestrian things in that project. So that's an ongoing project.
So, and how do you present that, Liz?
I
You know,
haven't yet. I haven't shown it yet. Haven't
you
decided.
do it with quotes? I mean, like,
I haven't decided. It's in
yeah.
progress. So I take recordings of each
Oh, you did
person
record it. Right.
and I'm not sure if I'm going to associate the images in the recordings. Each person agrees to conceptually allow them to be associated, but I may or may not associate them. Yeah, we'll see.
All
That's
right.
how it's
So,
going to
so
come out.
what is the process for you to decide whether you do it or not?
I feel like sometimes I have a very clear idea going in and then I execute a clear idea. And sometimes it works out great. And sometimes I'm like, well, man, that evolved along the way. And my original idea was really awful. I'm going to make these 29 changes along the way. And my output is going to look nothing like I originally conceived. That certainly happens. And sometimes I work on an idea for a long time before I start shooting it. And then it comes out a little bit more fully formed.
Mm.
So, so the
And
Confessions project is just one thing I'm working on.
will you share your thinking process with a friend, with a colleague, with your husband, somebody, to bounce ideas off?
Totally, yes. I often talk to my husband about it. I have trusted colleagues who I bounce ideas off of. I have friends who have nothing to do with
Right.
photography who I share other creative endeavors with, and I will ask them things that may not be, how do you think I should approach this project? But I might ask them a sort of a side question
Right.
knowing that I'm thinking about this thing over there and let me ask you this thing about painting or whatever. And I'm
Right.
integrating the thoughts. So yeah, you know, there's a lot of germination.
Yeah. As it should be, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Um, I wish I could say that things come out just fully formed. That's not how it works for me.
great. Great. Mm. Terrific. So I see we're starting to
Yes, yes.
recycle. So
Apologies.
thank you very, very much,
Thank
Lisa.
you so
That's
much.
very enlightening. Your process. If I don't know if you could stick around. I know you have your babysitting issues, but you should peek into the chat room. You have a lot of really nice comments in there.
Oh, thank you. I will. And I'm
And
going to stay on as long as possible because I really want to hear Liam.
okay. All right. So with that, we will now let Liam share his screen, and we'll jump right into Shakedown.
All right. How's it going, everybody? My name is Liam Kennedy. I'm a photojournalist and documentary photographer. I currently live in Syracuse, New York. Um, and I'm currently finishing my undergrad. I learned how to photograph while I was in the military. I was a Navy photographer for 8 years. I got out and started photographing the protests and other types of, okay, I see. One second. There you go. I started covering protests and other type of things, but since 2015, I've been photographing bikers in America. I became enamored through this. Grew up as a skateboarder, and one of the next logical steps that all of our friends took was getting into motorcycles. It's kind of it's a little less hard on your body, and it's the same kind of travel. Growing up, we'd get into the van, we'd pack up our cameras and our skateboards, and we'd drive to another state and just find spots and try and do that. This is, we restore old Harleys, and my one of my best friends and I rode cross country multiple times together. So over the last 10 years, I have rode about 60,000 miles on a bike that I built with my friends across the United States, documenting this lifestyle that still very much exists. I stand on the shoulders of giants like Danny Lyons, and I always felt like there was never a good update to his work. What would it be like for the custom motorcycle people beyond the TV show BS and beyond like the commercialization of this, like who are the people still doing it? Why are they doing it? What drives them? And through it, I ended up developing a love for old Harleys in particular. Um, they allowed me to travel, allowed me to express myself. I learned how to work with my hands. I've learned how to be able to fix my house because of them, because I have developed this type of um like I don't really know what to say. Like I'm not willing to back down from a challenge anymore. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to fail. I'm willing to go forward. Um, and a few years ago, I decided that I really wanted to make a book out of this work. So over the last 3 or 4 years, I have taken the time to approach publishers. I've probably gotten more than 100 rejection letters from this work. However, Fall Line Press out of Atlanta decided to publish the work back in October. And
Liam, just one thing. Can you speak to the camaraderie of these road trips and these
so I
folks?
actually just got back from a 10-day, 1,600-mile trip with my best friend. And when I dropped off the airport, I definitely cried. Like it was
Really?
that powerful of a time together. Like, as we get older, it's harder to spend that much time with your friends. So when you take the time and he flew into New York and he rode one of my bikes and I rode my other one. So I got to see the bike that I had traveled all over the United States on, but I got to see my best friend riding it, who I've been to war with, who we have published zines together. We have, been through breakups and marriages together. Like he is my brother in a sense. It's actually this guy. So he's a great influence on me, as you can tell. But he, um, but he flew into New York and we rode all back roads from Syracuse, New York to Maggie Valley, North Carolina.
What's his name?
His name's Warren Stoddard the second,
Warren. Okay.
and he's a novelist who lives in San Diego. He actually wrote the foreword to my book. He's very much like an Ernest Hemingway type character,
Mm.
in all regards. Um, and so we met a group of our friends in North Carolina who were getting married, and they are both bikers as well. They both ride 50s era panheads. And we all rode up to a hot dog stand in West Virginia where they got married. And it was beautiful. It was just the most perfect wedding ever. It was just we all wore tuxedo t-shirts and it was just very like it was just a big joke that we were all in on it, but it was to support our friends in the way that they wanted to be married.
Yeah, wait, Liam, go to the previous slide that we tied the guy to the bike. What is this?
So this is a rendition of a famous photo from the 70s, of a guy who had with one leg who had chained his bike to himself so no one could steal it. And
Okay.
starts on slideshow mode, so I have to keep going back.
No, that's
And
okay.
so I recreated it back in October on a Pentax 6.7 with some HP5 film.
Okay.
Or no, Portrait 800, and I developed it in black and white. But um yeah, so the camaraderie of that trip is just when one breaks down, everyone breaks down. We all jump in there, we help, we get the bike on the road or we load it in the van and keep going. It's we're all able to deal with each other's quirks and we're all able to kind of get through it. I've never seen that many personalities. That trip was something special. I've never seen that many personalities get along and like that many bikes just do that well. It was truly like an incredible experience. And out of all the trips I've done over the last 10 years, that was probably one of the most impactful that I've done.
So it changes you a trip like that. How, Liam?
Yeah, it changes. I mean, I'm just riding, 70 miles to the next gas station just in my head, not listening to music, just listening to my bike. So all I have to do is think, and then we get to the gas station, I can talk. Either we make crude and funny jokes. Um, one second. We make crude and funny jokes, or we talk philosophy, or we have a problem and we try to help each other out. It's a multitude of things. And this is the cover of the book, which is based on a manual from a 68 Harley Shovelhead, from a
So, all
Dr.
right, Liam, tell us what the shakedown is.
So shakedown, I can tell you perfectly because I just got back from a shakedown run. So basically, the shakedown is when you put a bike together, it's all fresh and clean, looks great. Can run down to the bar 5 miles. So you run down to another bar 15 miles from there. Then you might go to a park 30 miles and you go 100 miles and you say, okay, I'm good. So my first big ride, I rode from Syracuse, New York to Montreal, and back. Didn't have too many problems, ran pretty well. I get back, I have 10 days to prepare. We leave on the road. I broke bolts. Everything that could have gone wrong, I could go into nuance, but it would lose you. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong with my bike, and I think I spent at least 3 days in a van with my bike in there because I just had to try and fix it. So shakedown, you're trying to shake every nut and bolt loose. You're trying
Um,
to break the bike as much as possible so then you can fix it so then it's stronger. And that's a shakedown run.
okay.
Yeah.
So as you go out in distance, okay.
You can also
So
shake down people for money on Kickstarter like I've been doing for the last month. So
right.
uh so
Yeah.
so in order to fund the publishing of this book, we released a Kickstarter about
Okay.
30 days ago, 29 days ago. We have 24 hours left for funding. If you go to Kickstarter, you can type in Shakedown. It will come right up.
Okay.
There's a multitude of tiers ranging from $5 to $2,000. Um, and the idea, and we hit our goal the other day. My goal was $18,000, and we are currently sitting at 21, or sitting at
Great.
$1,454 right now.
Oh, that's great.
I'm so thankful, and like this is a huge step off a cliff in my career, and
Right.
it was I'm very grateful to everyone who's supported me.
And what's the timeline now, Liam?
So now we need to do a final edit on the book. It's 120 pages and 85 images, with a forward, captions, and end pages. Um, and we're gonna have it printed. I'm butchering the name, but I think it's EDS is the printing house in Spain.
Okay.
Um, it's getting printed in Spain and it'll get shipped over here. So we're hoping to have them in hand before Christmas so we can send them out, or at least Thanksgiving so we can send them out by Christmas.
And tell us who the designer was. And are there any other images inside the book?
Yeah, a lot of the work that I just showed is from within.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna do this again, but I'm gonna do it myself and not do the slideshow.
Okay.
Um, Bonnie Bryant out of New York designed it. She's a pretty prolific designer. She has won a few Paris Photo Awards for her work. And she's won, I think, award for a book a year for the last like 15 years.
Wow.
She's just a powerhouse of a designer. And I've been developing this work in tandem with the help of Ed Kashi and Jim Estrin.
Right.
Ed Kashi, the freelance or the photojournalist, and Jim Estrin, the 40-year photojournalist from the New York Times. I study under them at Anderson Ranch for the last 3 years in Colorado. And yeah, this is not going to be my last book. I'm currently working on another project right now about graffiti artists in Philadelphia. However, subcultures really interest me, and it's the trust, it's the respect that you have to gain in order to get in there that I find so fascinating.
Mhm. So all the images you're showing now are in the book.
For the most part, yes,
Yeah. Mhm.
with some outliers.
And how was that process for you, to edit the book and, what goes in, what stays out, and just allowing yourself to let go of images.
It's a huge ego check for sure. The
Yeah.
photos that you think are working are not working, and if anything, it's made me a better photographer by realizing like it's okay that the photo didn't work out. That means that there's plenty more room for better photographs.
Mm.
It's not personal.
Mm. Yeah, tell me what's going on in that shot. The guy's holding the other guy's
So this is actually me. I'm on the bike. I'm on this bike right here. My hands are completely off my handlebars and I'm leaned back and against my bag. And that's my buddy Warren, who I just did the most recent trip with. He's grabbing my throttle and operating my motorcycle while I'm photographing.
God almighty. You
Yeah.
broke every safety rule that was ever written.
Wrong. I was wearing a helmet in this photo, so I
Ah,
think
sorry.
that's cool.
I need proof of that, William. Oh, wow.
Well, it's better than driving with your feet, right?
Yes, I think. I don't know. I don't know. Mm.
So, I think just the resourcefulness of everyone is what really inspires me to be a better photographer as well. And
Right.
to put down the camera and live in the moment, I think one of the biggest things about this project I wanted to convey is there's a life beyond your screen. There's a
Mm.
road out there. My buddy, we were talking about it on the way home. We're like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen out there. Anything you want to happen to you is going to happen out there on the road. It's not going to happen sitting from your couch. You're never going to get what you want from life just staring at a screen and hoping that someone's going to pick you one day. If you really want to have a good life and you really want to understand yourself better and test yourself, it's going to happen on the road, on an adventure. That's where you put your money where your mouth is. And I think that it's just a beautiful thing. And it just builds a sense of teamwork you can't replicate.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So much so you end up tattooing yourself. Yeah.
You have to, right?
Yeah. I mean, just like this. I mean, I'm right there in this image too. Like it was all of us. That was a crazy trip. But um, this image, for instance, Nick was riding. We were out in the Smoky Mountains, and a deer jumped off of a cliff in the middle of the day and landed right in front of his motorcycle as he was coming down, and he just ran through the deer. Broke his foot and his leg. So we
Oh,
all jumped in there and we got him bandaged up, got him a beer and a cigarette, and put him in the car and got him back to the campsite, put his leg in a cooler and got back to hanging out, you know?
of course.
You know? I don't know, it's just a different, all everyone it's crazy because like I love this lifestyle so much because it attracts just the goofiest people.
Mm,
This just very carefree, laissez-faire attitude towards life that I think is so necessary because life is hard and life sucks. So when you are with people who don't let that affect them and they allow themselves to relax and let their hair down at the campsite and just enjoy life and all the things that do make life beautiful, you come back a better person. You come back wanting to share that with everyone. And I think that those are all principles that people really should embrace. And I think we'd be better for it.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great room, my God.
Oh yeah. That's in Nashville. Yeah. I love this
Yeah,
photo.
there's a question. How often do you self-tattoo?
Oh, I don't self-tattoo. I just do it with friends in hotel rooms now. If I do it, it's more for
So,
the joke, if anything.
yeah.
Like it's more for
So,
the
so,
memory. It's a souvenir.
so yeah, I mean, why is self-tattoo a whole different category?
I don't know. I've never done it. I hate getting tattooed. Ironically enough, I hate getting tattooed now. So I would never do that to myself. I don't think. I don't trust myself. My buddy
Is it
wants
just
to get
because it's so
tattooed. I'm like,
dangerous?
no, it's not dangerous.
Okay. No, I'm just wondering what's special about self-tattoo. I didn't
Well,
know.
I never self-tattooed. I think what happened there is one of our buddies is an artist in that tattoo photo. And
Yeah.
the story behind it goes, we were riding through Mexico and her buddy stole a bunch of stickers from a gas station that said no prob llamas on them. And they're just shaped like these little llamas with little sombreros on them. And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
moment we put them on our bikes, it was like haunted. All of our bikes started breaking down. And like the craziest stuff started happening. So I tore mine off my bike because I'm like, I can't deal with this. This is too spooky. Everyone left them on their bikes. And the joke was we got our buddy's bike running in the hotel room. Finally, we fixed it. I was in Tucson, Arizona in like 2021. And the joke was in order to reverse the curse, our buddy Jeff was going to tattoo the llamas on us. And that was part of the joke. And it reversed the curse.
That's a great shot. Nice. Beautiful.
But I think all the best photos from this work are made on the in between moments. They're made at the
Mm,
gas stations. They're made in the breakdowns. They're not made while riding like that. It's too easy to photograph someone while they're riding. But when we stop at a gas station and we're tired and we're sore and we're hungry, like we ride motorcycles with no suspension in the rear. We ride bikes with long front ends. It's like when we go out on these motorcycle trips, it's not relaxing. It's like hiking a mountain, is what it is.
mm,
We ride thousands of miles in a short amount of distance, and we're up till 2 o'clock every morning, you
mm,
know, and it's how we spend time with each other. We
mm,
don't, it's tough to even go to bed because we don't want another moment to pass. Like we don't get to see each other often. We want to be as interconnected as possible on this trip, on
mm.
these trips.
And the network that you travel with, does it stay as tight when you're not traveling? Like if you're not going to see each other for the next 6 months? I mean, is there like Facebook groups or just
It's
a thread that you guys are all on all the time?
no, it's a lot of Instagram. It's a
Okay.
lot of Instagram is how we stay connected. Somebody will post a new bike that they did. Everyone will talk, and or I'll just randomly FaceTime my friends. I'll
Mm,
randomly call them, "Hey man, how you doing? It's been like 6 months since I talked to you. How you doing, man? How's your kids?"
okay.
You know, I think it is one of those things we're all very transient people, but like some people never move from their town. So if I'm in Kansas City, I know exactly where to go. If I'm in Los Angeles, I know exactly where to go. I did a 7,000 mile road trip across the country and never stayed in one hotel.
Wow. All friends' houses, right?
Yeah.
Um, so does anyone ever sort of just leave the group? Just you never heard from him again. Like got married, and became, an insurance salesman.
There's plenty of that, and
Yeah.
I love those guys all the same. Like some people, it wears you down. It is expensive. It is hard. People who are there are scenes that are fraught with drug abuse and alcohol abuse. Um, and some people get sober and they just don't want to be around it anymore. They never get rid of their bike, but they just stop hanging out. Some people just have a falling out and don't want to be around it, and some people just move on to another hobby.
Right.
And a lot of these guys are very creative, very resourceful people. So, I know people have gone on to create very successful businesses. And because they created a successful business, they had to step away for a while. You know,
And do you feel like those stories get conveyed in the book?
it's not really, I don't know. It's not really about them per
Yeah,
se.
yeah.
It's more about people who are actively living the lifestyle.
Mm.
Um, the only place I really hold space for someone who no longer does it are the people who are no longer with us
Uh,
in the book, like my friend Cody, who passed away in 2021. He was hit by a car making a left turn at night. Um, he was really young. Yeah, it's like 36. And
yeah,
that was also one of my best friends. And but, I don't think he would have wanted it any other way. He was a
yeah.
local legend in Savannah, Georgia. He was actually voted one of the top 10 attractions to see in Savannah, Georgia in like 2019, him and his dog
That's right. That's
at
great.
the bar at Pinky Masters in Savannah, Georgia. Um, so, and I'm just thankful to have been someone who documented. And I hope that these men and women, 30, 40, 50 years from now, look back on the book and they
Mhm.
get to be like, I remember that party. I remember him. Oh, do you remember? Oh, I hate that guy. Like that guy ruined my night. Like I fought him or, I really hope they can look back and like a flood of memories come back for them.
Right. That's yeah, that's a beautiful thing. It's an interesting thing. Like, what do you think came first for you as it relates to this book, this lifestyle? Um, were you a photographer first, and then you fell in love with the road and with the motorcycles and that camaraderie? Or did you have that camaraderie and you were a photographer? Because a lot of photographers,
So,
will take on an issue, whether it's unwed
right.
moms, climate change, and it
Sure.
becomes part of their lives,
Sure.
right?
So I was a skateboarder first. Skateboarding was my life. My dream as a kid was to pack a van with all of my friends and go to California and become a pro skater. And then around 16, I realized that's probably not gonna happen. And I started videoing. I became a videographer. And then I joined the military and realized I had a talent for photography. One of my skateboard friends introduced me to people who are still very dear to me, who were referenced in the book multiple times. In Fort Wayne, Indiana, Rick Swader and Ben Jeff. And I bought my first bike from Rick. So I was a photographer first, then I became a biker, but then the biker took over being a photographer.
Mm.
So I photographed this to understand it. I didn't understand it. I never held tools I never touched a wrench until I was 22 years old, other than to fix a skateboard.
Right.
So imagine me now. I go out in my garage. I have two large rolling toolboxes and a bench and stuff strewn about everywhere and power tools and air compressor, all this stuff to fix bikes now. But
Right.
um, it was my escape while I was in the military. It was my ability to go out and make friends that wasn't tied to my service because I knew my service was fleeting. I was going to get out someday. I wasn't, the best sailor that ever lived. I made it to E5, which is great, but I wanted friends who were not going to be tied to my service. So when I left,
Uh,
I still had those friends and I still had people to go to.
mm. Okay. So it's
So
a sort of a conscious decision, this whole journey,
somewhat, yes
one
and
way or
no.
another.
I've definitely had to follow my gut or my instincts in certain respects,
Yeah.
but I think it has been a big growing and maturing journey for me that I don't think I would be able to do the things I do now without the lessons I've learned from the people I've met doing this project.
Mm. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So folks can still, if they wanted to, uh, go to your GoFundMe page,
Yes. Well, it's
right?
Kickstarter. It's kickstarter.com.
Kickstarter, right?
And then you can type in Shakedown or my name, Liam Kennedy. They'll come up. We have 24 hours left to fund. Um, please don't let the number stop you. Like any extra dollar helps me to create a better book to put on these tables for everyone.
Right.
Uh, I'm very thankful for anyone who's willing to donate their time, money, generosity of sharing with people who might be interested in it, as well. But there's some great opportunities to own some work, to get in on, as we like to say, right, the ground floor. These are a lower price than they will be when we have them on sale on the website as well.
And that for now, that's the only place to purchase a book.
For now, yes, is Shakedown, and then there will be pre-sales on the fall line page coming soon. But also, beyond just the book, you can buy editioned prints for me as well on this.
Okay, great.
So this is an opportunity to own work for much less than you would buy in a gallery. They'll be signed and numbered on C prints and silver gelatin.
Okay.
So there's a few different options. The special edition will be the book signed with a print, but it will have either a polished aluminum or a chromed steel slip case that will
Mm,
go on it as well.
okay.
How many rejections did you get from people not wanting to take pictures from some of these guys that probably were in their own heads or on their own trips, and all of a sudden you show up with a camera?
Almost never, because I built up a persona online for a long time that when I showed up, I was the guy to photograph you. So I'd have people seeking me out to photograph them, or
Right.
I pull my camera out at a party, and these guys are very performative. These guys are very much like, look at me jump through this fire. This is crazy, right? And then you photograph them, and they love it, and then you send them the photo, and then they get to remember it as well.
You talk about branding. You branded yourself, right? As the guy.
Yeah, Chopper Chug was my alter ego for a long time. And if you want to know what a Chopper Chug is, you can go to my Instagram page at Chopper Chug, and there's a very clear video showing what it is, but you can't hold it against me. I did it because we hit our funding goal, and I'm a man of the word, and I said I would do it.
All right, we'll have to
Beer in
look at
front of
that.
an exhaust. That's when you hold a beer in front of exhaust and rev the engine and it goes, it goes all over you. So,
Liam, don't share everything, Liam. It's okay.
no, it's already out there on the internet for people to find, but I own it. I'm a goofy guy and I just like to have a good time. And I like when people can get a laugh either with me or at me. So it's okay.
Yeah, there you go. That's absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. But that is really something how if you ingratiate yourself and you are part of that community and it's not trite and it's not fake, because
Right.
everyone could see a fake a mile
Oh
away,
my
right?
God, those guys are crazy. They're
Man, oh
so
man.
intuitive. They're a bunch of blue collar guys who are they're very tough. They're very tough. It's all about respect. And you give what you get, right? You go up somebody cursing them out. Well, I hope you're good at fighting because these guys are huge most of the time. But like they come from rough backgrounds. And the
Yeah.
thing is like when they go out into this world, they also don't want to be reminded of some of the things that are happening there. Like they want to let loose as well. So it is just all in fun and in jest. And there are some serious moments when we go down and people die. There's funerals, there's fights, there's overdoses. There are all these crazy facets to this work, but it's all within this book. And
Mm,
I believe people will be able to see that.
mm. Yeah, so there's got to be moments where it's a little bit scary. Like, you've got to be saying, I got to move away from this now, right? I mean, and
There
that's
have
hard.
there have been times where I think um I've had a mild amount of fear, but then I this is gonna sound crazy, but that's when I lock in and I'm like, okay, well, how do I photograph this?
Ah,
I
mhm.
that's when I'm like in my peak when I'm like, okay, well, this is dangerous. I'm the guy to photograph this. Like, I've photographed in Ukraine and I've photographed in violent protests and I've photographed, I've rode a motorcycle like on this recent trip. My buddy and I almost got hit by a car trying to like almost T-boning us. But we were, both thankfully we're both have taken safety courses and both good riders and we're able to, make a Y formation around the car and meet back up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't think it's fear. I think there are times where I'm like, okay, well, this is dangerous. I'm going to probably move away from this guy that's going to instigate it. I'm going to go to the other side of the circle where I have a better light and better view, and we'll see what happens with this. Because there are
Right.
photos like if I go back, there are photos like this. Like this was a fight that was very much unfolding in the middle of a campground in Ohio in 2019. Obviously, you can probably tell from this photo who is starting the fight, who is instigating. It's this guy, the guy with no clothes on. Um, but that's probably the scariest thing that'll happen is a fight breaks out
Mm.
at these things. I'm very lucky to be friends or friendly with some of the people um that nobody really wants to mess with, I guess. I
Right.
protected to a degree.
That's a strategic move. I love that. Love that. So stop sharing.
Right.
And I can't, Lisa, Liam, I can't thank you guys both enough for coming in and sharing this work with us. If anyone has any questions, now's the time to jump in. Um, but this yeah, both, the work is so impressive with you both of you really like engage your subjects. And it's not your subjects, it's like people that you really enjoy being around, right? Different, but same principles, right? There's trust, there's respect, there's all of that, and that gets you, these moments.
Yeah.
I love
That's
your work, Liam. It's so
Back at you,
beautiful.
Lisa. Back at you.
Chopper chug.
I just
And-
want to like pretend I live alone and put all of it up on my walls,
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Don't worry, I have family-friendly images too out of that work, I promise.
which is totally not what I'm interested in.
All
Be real clear here.
That's
right.
that's fair. Yeah.
There's
We can do a print trade. How about that?
Sign me up a thousand
Perfect.
times over.
We have witnesses here too, so
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know your story about the llama. What was the phrase?
Oh,
Uh,
the no problemas.
no problemas. I'm integrating that. I'm gonna like that's just gonna
Perfect.
come out of my kid's mouth from now on.
Mm,
But yeah, I have your Kickstarter open.
Mm.
Perfect. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
yeah. Philip,
You guys should all go buy his book.
Please
yes,
do.
yes.
So happy.
Um, Philip, this presentation will be up on our YouTube channel probably by Monday or Tuesday of next week. I would think. And when you go, Philip, we'll put the link in there. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Um, so, Liam, when does the book come out?
We're hoping to have books in hand late this year.
Maybe in time for Christmas
We're
holiday.
hoping to have them by Thanksgiving, and
Oh,
I'm really pushing hard on this. We have one more edit to do, and then we can send it off to the printer.
great. Okay. Yeah, you have to come back just before, and so we can see if we can't sell some books for you as well.
You bet. I'll make sure there's a book in your mailbox so you can hold it up and show everybody, you know.
There you go. Crazier things have been done. Maybe I can get myself a llama tattoo.
I got you. I know a guy. We can see a man about it llama.
Okay, is that what that little red was? Were those all llamas?
Those are all the llama from the sticker.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
And we customized them for everybody. So our buddy is on the trip with one leg. They gave him a little one leg that's missing a leg on the llama. The guy who drove the truck has wheels on his llama.
ah,
I had been a grump the whole trip, so they gave mine like a frowny face. One guy has like an eye patch on his.
that's
That's hysterical.
I mean you talk about that that's a line of Izod shirts, right?
Yeah, basically.
That's yeah, that's funny. That's really, really funny. Great, 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 great. Yeah, and Liam, you should, look through the chat room. There's a lot of
I am.
terrific
I'm
comments
very
and
thankful for everyone's comments. Thank you so much, everyone, for looking at the work. And it's been
um
a long journey.
yeah. So yeah, again, everyone, thanks for coming in. Well, we have another show next Thursday, special Thursday night presentation. So looking forward to that. You two, I can't thank you enough. You really a very nice, inspiring night from two, really far spectrums. But you guys do it with great commitment. So thank you. Lisa, give us your final words for the evening, then we'll let Liam sign us off.
Oh my goodness, what pressure. Go make more love in the world.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that. Liam?
If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen out there.
Mhm.
All right.
Amen.
With that, everyone, stay dry wherever you are. It seems like there's rain every which way we're looking. And I look forward to seeing anybody who's in the big town. I'll be in the city tomorrow for a week, so I'm looking forward to that. And thanks, Lisa, Liam, and everyone. Good night. Linda, again, thanks.